Good morning.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, ma'am.
Yeah. So we'll finish Carl Jung's seal. That's just one paragraph, and then we'll move on to the next seminar. Sneha, you prepared? Okay. So take page number 37. Jung claimed that there was a collective unconscious consisting of archetypes or primordial images. These are not individually acquired but are inherited. They're speaking about the archetypes. Do you know what an archetype is? Anyone? Archetype. Yes, Ashish? Do you know anything about archetype? No. Okay. Now, think of a dog who is playing with its master. Just think of one dog. Thought? Okay. Amal, describe how the dog was in your imagination.
Ma'am, furry
Sorry?
has good height
Is furry.
and tall.
Furry and
Ma'am, tall.
tall.
Uh,
Okay. Which color?
Ma'am, black.
Black. And which breed?
Ma'am, Tibetan Mastiff.
Huh?
Tibetan Mastiff.
I can't hear you properly. Which one?
Ma'am, Tibetan Mastiff.
1 minute. Yeah, once more. Tibetan
Mastiff.
Mastiff. Okay. And any other special feature that you imagine?
Ma'am, very loyal and cute.
Very loyal and cute. Okay, fine. Ashish, how was yours? Hmm? Unmute. How was the dog in your imagination?
Dog was
Hmm.
good, tall,
Hmm.
and
Which color?
black and brown.
Black and brown. Which breed?
Belgian Malinois.
Hmm. Then?
Mm. To jump in tall height,
Uh,
run very fast,
hmm.
and very aggressive,
Hmm.
mm, and so on.
That's all. Okay. Aishwarya.
It was a golden retriever. It was jumping around
Hmm.
in happiness.
Hmm.
It was cream color.
That's all. Sneha.
It was a Labrador, small, running around my legs. It was a puppy.
Puppy. Okay. Elvina.
Its breed is Saint Bernard, and its color is a mix of white and browning color.
What was the dog doing?
He's some kind of aggressive, and he's crawling.
Calling? Calling what?
Crawling when he's playing with his honor.
Okay. Meghna.
It was a golden retriever. It was tall. It was clingy. For the other outsiders, it was very aggressive, and it was playing happy.
Okay. Grishma. Grishma is not here. Okay. Just underline that point and keep collective unconscious archetypes are primordial images. Then underline that sentence. These are not individually acquired but are inherited. Okay. So these are not individually acquired but are inherited, which means these archetypes means primordial images, which means we have a certain image of something. Like if I say um, mother archetype, mother archetype means you have an image that these are the characteristic of a mother generally. Okay, so that'll be somewhat common to the humankind. And according to Carl Jung says that archetypes is a part of your collective unconscious. Hmm? Just like Freud explained the conscious, pre-conscious, and unconscious, here Carl Jung has explained it in three sections again, but they are ego, collective unconscious, and personal unconscious also. Okay, ego, collective unconscious, and personal unconscious. This collective unconscious is the one who contains archetypes. Okay, and inside collective unconscious, what we have is all the experiences that we inherit from our ancestors. Okay, everything inherited from our ancestors, but they are unconscious in us. And that is why it is said to be having archetypes inside it. Archetypes means primordial images, which means images about something that we have already set. It is said that these are innate in us. Innate means we inherit from our ancestors. And personal unconscious contains everything that is not there in the collective unconscious. Personal experiences and just like our proper unconscious that our Freud said, the regressed or the repressed materials, unconscious motives, sexual desires, everything, most of them comes under personal unconscious. Okay, so where is the archetype present? Inside the collective unconscious. According to Carl Jung, archetypes are also known as primordial images. That is what Carl Jung called them. They come under collective unconscious always. Okay, for example is given. The God or the Mother Earth is a good example of archetype. God, when you say God, what are the characteristics that you have about God? Or what have you imagined and kept about God? When you hear the word God, how can you describe God? Tell me. At least, Elvina, somebody.
God who has a spiritual and divine.
Divine. Then, when you first hear the word God, whom do you think of?
Jesus.
Jesus. And whom do you think of, Aishwarya?
There are so many.
Now, whom did you think of?
Lord Vishnu.
Lord Vishnu. Okay. Now, whom did you think of, Sneha?
Lord Shiva.
Lord Shiva. Just like that. See how that difference is there according to the innate thing that you have got from your ancestors. You're following that, isn't it? Yeah, it differs from people, but there will be a common understanding among the humankind. That is, God is powerful. It is a very divine and spiritual concept when we talk about God. I mean, according to the believers of God, there are a set of people who don't believe in it. But according to the people who believe in it, it's like this. So archetypes are generally innate or inherited concepts, inherited images about certain things. Again, Mother Earth. What can you tell about Mother Earth? Why don't we call it Father Earth? Have you ever thought? Mother India. Why don't we call it Father India? Hmm? Mother Nature. Gender discrimination, no? Mother Nature. Why do we call it Mother Nature? What are the characteristics of mother?
Loving, caring.
Loving, caring, and providing nourishment for the child, isn't it? Just like that, the nature also provides us with so many things, so many facilities, actually, isn't it? That might be the reason why people have started calling it Mother Nature, and then it has gone from generation to generation, and we have inherited the same concept from the ancestors. If our ancestors would have called it Father Nature, then we would have also called the same, isn't it? That's why it is called archetype, which is primordial image. We have an image of Mother Nature. If suppose an artist is going to describe it or depict it in picture terms, if he is trying to draw Mother Nature, then there will be so much of greenery around with the female figure, isn't it? So the primordial image there is of a female. The archetype is of a female. And how did we get it? We inherited it from our ancestors. And we are not consciously doing it. It is inside our unconscious. Understood. So this comes under collective unconscious. Collective unconscious, one important fact is that it is common to a set of people or a group of people. Okay. Like for your ancestors, your family, and your generation also, the concept of Mother Nature would be the same, isn't it? Suppose after a few generations, people start calling it Father Nature, Father Earth, Father India. And then the generations that are coming after it might call the same. So it's common for that group of people. So collective unconscious means it's common. That concept is common for a collection of people. That is why it is called collective unconscious. And personal unconscious is just the opposite. Anything other than the concepts in collective unconscious comes in personal unconscious. The personal repressed memories, personal repressed ideas, everything comes under personal unconscious. Got it? Okay. Then they are found in myths, dreams, and arts of all mankind. And yeah, when I talked about God, the concept of God, it is present in our holy scriptures and all, isn't it? Yes. And Jung held that the self strives for unity and oneness. It is an archetype that is expressed in many ways. He devoted much of his efforts to the study of such expressions in various traditions. According to him, for achieving unity and wholeness, a person must become increasingly aware of the wisdom available in one's personal and collective unconscious and must learn to live in harmony with it. So the person has to find out what is in his or her personal as well as collective unconscious, find harmony in it. That is just like ego fights between or finds harmony between id and superego. Just like that, our self has to find harmony between the things in personal unconscious and collective unconscious. That's all. Okay. And just note something when we usually study archetypes, um, we study about four major archetypes given by Jung. Okay, One is persona. One is anima animus. One is shadow. Last one is self. It is why we said as last sentence. According to him, for achieving unity and wholeness, a person must become increasingly aware of the wisdom available in one's personal and collective unconscious and must learn to live in harmony with it. And underline that sentence along with the previous one. Jung held that the self strives for unity and oneness. So if you look at the heading, you can know Carl Jung aims and aspirations. So according to him, in the introduction, you have to write apart from the past experiences, the future experiences, like what are your aims, what are your goals, what are you striving for, what are your aspirations in the future, which means what are you aspiring for, what are you aiming for. All those have influence on your personality. Okay, that is important for your personality development also. That is of major concept to Carl Jung. Aims and aspiration. That is why it's given as a heading. Carl Jung, aims and aspirations. And this one just learn the names and keep. And this might be quite interesting for you. Some people depict it as the yin and yang concept. You don't know how to draw it exactly. Have you seen this? Have you seen it? Hmm?
Ma'am, is this the symbol for making peace or something like that?
Hmm. Yin and yang. Chinese yeah, this is used to depict the archetype anima animus. I'll tell you what anima animus is. If you want, you can write down. Anima, this one, the first part is the uh, feminine image in the male psyche. That is, it is said that all the males will have some amount of female qualities inside. Okay, that is the anima part. Now, animus is just the opposite. All females will have some amount of um, male qualities in them, or male characteristics in them, or male features in them. That is animus. So, anima is inside males, and animus is inside females. That's it. And persona, it's just like the other explanation we learned. It is like a mask that hides the um, repressed feelings, emotions, ideas, memories, etc. And the person puts on different masks for different for fitting into different social situations. That's what is said in persona. The self you already know all the um, characteristics of the person itself. Then shadow. Shadow deals with mainly the repressed memories, the repressed ideas, uh, the anger, hostility, sexual instincts, life instincts, everything which is present deep inside the unconscious. That forms the shadow archetype. Okay, so that's it. So, what is Carl Jung's field known as, or the approach known as?
Analytical psychology.
Okay, analytical psychology. And Freud's concepts are together called? Theoretical concepts are together called?
Psychoanalysis.
Psychoanalysis are the treatment methods, the approach.
Psychodynamic.
Psychodynamic. Okay. So next will be Karen Horney, optimism. Again, here all the people have given different, so many contributions to the field of psychology. We are just focusing on the part which is given in the syllabus. Okay. Yeah, Sneha, ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have a presentation, PPT or something?
No, I just wrote it in the book.
Okay.
So, good morning and welcome. I'm going to explain about Karen Horney, psychoanalytic social theory and neurosis. So, Karen Horney, she's a German psychoanalytic who greatly contributed to the psychoanalytic theory and neurosis. Karen Horney, who theorized that human society, cultural factor, and childhood are more important than genetic factor in developing personality and neurotic tendencies. Although she was highly influenced by Sigmund Freud's psychoanalysis, she rejected many of his observations and emphasized the importance of cultural factor. Now, neurosis. Neurosis is generally considered as a degree. Neurosis is generally considered as a degree or social disorder and social disorder and anxiety. But Karen looked at it in a distorted way. Karen characterized neurosis as a distorted way of looking at the world at oneself. Distorted way. Now this distorted view is created because of society we live in and the culture that human beings have created in this world. So I'm going to state about some important concept elaborated by her, starting off with her psychoanalysis social theory. According to Karen, human beings are not ruled by pleasure alone, but human development is actually based on more around the need for safety and satisfaction.
Need
She
for
believed,
safety and satisfaction.
yes, she believed that major source of hostility and anxiety is because of culture that we follow in the society we live in and these childhood experiences. She theorized that the modern culture actually promotes competition between human and that emerged person is real or potential competitor to everybody else. And this create anxiety and isolation in individual and also forces them to look at the love, them to look forward the love and affection as a solution to the problem.
Mm.
So they look for love not because they want to, because they need to.
Mm.
She also proposed that the sum total of childhood experiences shapes our personality very permanently. Lack of genuine love and care and traumatic experiences, also in her opinion, can actually result in neurotic tendencies in people. Next, the concept of hostility and anxiety. Now we spoke about the safety and satisfaction for a basic human need. It is more important for children, in our opinion, to feel safe and satisfied when growing up. If parents actually demonstrate an unwillingness, love towards their children, or start neglecting or dominating over or indulging their children, they start developing basic hostility towards their parent. and it can actually create a feeling of a feeling of fear, and it can actually create insecurities in child, and the child can actually develop basic anxiety. So that is the difference between hostility and anxiety. Anxiety comes into equation when hostility is suppressed by the basic anxiety, in a state where the person feels isolated and helpless. To protect against anxiety, our brain actually uses certain defense mechanism, which are affection. Now, this refers to people desperately seek love and going to any means possibly to get and try love for themselves, even if it means purchasing temporary companionship using natural means. Second, submissiveness. Now, this refers to blindly believing and surrendering to certain people or institution. Third, power or prestige. Now, this refers to dominating other or humiliating other to compensate vulnerability. Fourth, withdrawal. Now, this refers to emotionally disconnecting and withdrawing from other people to protect oneself or getting hurt. That's all. So, I have explained the defense adapted by normal people to protect themselves from anxiety.
Can you just dictate that to them? The 4 points. Can you dictate that points to them once more?
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry.
First one, affection. This refers to desperately people seek for love.
I'm asking them to write it down.
Oh, okay.
First one, affection.
Affection. Second one, submissiveness. Third one, power and prestige.
Wait, slowly. Affection,
Submissiveness. Power and prestige. And withdrawal. Ma'am, can I continue?
everybody got the points. And what is the heading? The
Ma'am, defense mechanism
defense mechanism used.
to, to protect from anxiety. The brain uses defense mechanism to protect from anxiety or hostility.
Okay.
So I have explained the defense adapted by normal people to protect themselves from anxiety. But neurotic people experience anxiety to much higher level.
Hmm.
Okay, neurotic people can develop 10 different types of needs, known as neurotic needs, to protect themselves from anxiety and hostility. So now the neurotic need as proposed by Karen are the need for affection and approval. Now this refers to attempt to indiscriminately please others and to try and live up to other people's expectation and point, that they actually weigh their own self down. Second, the next need is the need for powerful partner. Now all the human beings try to
First,
attract.
just a minute. First one was need for affection and approval.
Yes.
Note it down. Others.
Second, the need for powerful partner. Now, the need for powerful partner. Now, all human beings try to attract powerful partner for themselves, but neurotic people try to desperately attach themselves to powerful partner to compensate for their own lack of confidence, so that there is a difference. So there is a difference in that. Third, the need to restrict one's life within narrow borders. Neurotics try to maintain a low profile. They try to avoid limelight and force themselves to content with very little. They try to avoid limelight and things. Fourth, the need for power. This is the other end of the spectrum, wherein some neurotic tend to exert power and control over other people to make themselves feel more secure. Fifth, the need to exploit other. People now certain People are now certain neurotic tend to latch over to people who they can exploit, so that they only latch onto themselves because they are easily exploited, and it is their own fear of being exploited that drives them to exploit these other people. Sixth, the need for social recognition or prestige. So now the neurotics try to combat basic anxiety by attracting attention and trying to be important. Seventh, so now the next need is the need for personal admiration. Now, some neurotic have an over-inflected self-esteem and feel the need to continually to be admired by others to actually avoid their own anxiety. Eight, okay, the need for ambition and personal achievement. See, everybody sets personal milestones and want to achieve things in life, but neurotic look to achieve their goal in a way that they actually defeat other people who stands in their way, so that they are ruthless in some way. Ninth, the need for self-sufficiency and independence. Now, some neurotic need to actually keep themselves away from other people. Other, they therefore go into shell and work hard at distancing from people. They're getting very close to so. So this is the need for self-sufficiency and independence. So it is not the positive. It is not as positive as great as it is. Last but not the least, the need for perfection and unassailability. So now this is the stem out of their fear of weak and vulnerable. Certain neurotic look to never make mistake and be in a situation where actually make them look less than perfect. So this is a need for that refers to. Now, neurotic needs can be clubbed into a category called neurotic tens. And neurotic tens are uh, three types that are moving close to people, moving against the people, and moving away from people. Moving close to people are this refers to neurotic submitting themselves to protect themselves. And moving against the people, this is a tendency that everybody to be hostile, that the neurotic try to be hostile. They could make themselves aggressive or exploitive and exert power on others. Moving away from people, this refers to isolating tendency and the tendency to distance themselves from other people and from society in totality. So moving against people and moving away from people are two different things.
Okay. Moving close to people or towards people, moving against people, then moving
Away from
away
people.
from people. There are three neurotic trends.
Thank you.
So lots of extra information. Any questions?
What, ma'am?
Any questions? You're free to ask to them and they are free to ask to you.
Anyone can ask the thought.
Can you explain neurosis once again?
Yes. Neurosis is a tendency to act aggressive in a sense, like mm, they're like psychopath. They don't. They feel so. They are so. They feel so lonely inside. They act aggressive to people, and they have the problem of anxiety and things. Uh, I hope. Anything else?
Any other doubts? You have to ask.
Can you repeat the poems after the need for powerful partner?
I'll explain. The need for powerful partners. Now, all human beings try to attract powerful partner for themselves, but neurotic people try desperately attach themselves to powerful partner to compensate for their own lack of confidence. They attract to powerful partner to make an they don't have confidence in themselves, so they need a powerful partner to maintain an equality. I hope you understood. Or should I explain it again?
No, I understood.
Can you tell the third point from those 10 points?
Yes. The need to restrict one's life within narrow borders. Neurotics try to maintain a low profile life. They try to avoid limelight and force themselves to be contented, happy with a very little thing.
They are satisfied with very little. Finished? Okay, now Sneha, Sneha can ask questions to them.
What are the four defense mechanisms that our brain help us to not to feel hostile or to escape from anxiety? Anyone can answer.
Affection, submissiveness, withdrawal, and power and prestige.
Sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Good presentation. And Karen Honey, coming back to our Karen Honey, the thing is, most of the concepts it's known as part of feminine psychology. Just like Carl Jung's analytical psychology, here we have feminine psychology. Hmm? And what was the basic concept? She focused on neurosis. Neurosis means generally in psychology we say it as the distress that people have. Like it may include depression, anxiety, obsessions, all sorts of things, but they wouldn't have hallucinations and delusions. Okay, when we study the set of psychological disorders, you learn a set of neurotic disorders. Fine. So psychotic disorders means they have hallucinations and delusions. Neurotic disorders wouldn't have hallucinations and delusions, which means in psychotic disorders, they don't have much contact with reality because they are in their imaginative world. That is why they are having hallucinations and delusions. That's not the reason that they are having hallucinations and delusions, but because they are having hallucinations and delusions, we say that they have less contact with reality or their reality contact is distorted. But in neurotic disorders, there is less distortion of reality, which means who will have more contact with reality? People with psychotic disorders or neurotic disorders?
Neurotic disorders.
Neurotic disorders. Understood. Yes. And now, Karen Horney, the basic concept was basic anxiety and basic hostility, which revolves around the concept of neurosis. Okay. And what was the focus? She says that everyone, for proper growth or development, everybody needs a safe and secure environment. Need for safety and affection is of importance here. So, whichever individual it may be, from where do we get the first that amount of care, affection, and we feel safe and warm towards the world? From where do we get that feeling?
Parents.
From our parents, or what do we call them? Last day I told you, for those who don't have parents, what do we call them? Primary
Caretakers.
caretakers, primary caretakers or parents. Okay. And it's not necessary that each and every child has their parents along with them, isn't it? It might be some other person, it might be someone related to them or unrelated to them. Suppose if the child is growing up in an orphanage, it's somebody unrelated to that child, isn't it? Who is taking care of the child. So we call them either primary caretakers or parents. Fine. Now, so if the parents are very much caring, not overly caring, but providing the warm environment in which the child can grow and develop, then providing setting adequate rules and regulations for them to um, follow, then providing them with their basic facilities like food, nourishment, water, shelter, then their affection, love, care, everything all together, then the development is proper in the child. The growth and development is proper. But suppose these parents are very ignorant, they are not looking after the child, or they are very strict on the child, they are very rude to the child, or if they are punishing the child in a very overly fashion, or doing all the harmful things to the child. If there are elders at home who are abusing the child, then all this um, makes the child ending up in a feeling of hostility towards the parents and the or the primary caretakers. Hostility means the last day I explained to you, no? They'll feel hostile. They don't have that warmth. They are not getting the warmth, so they don't feel that closeness or warmth towards the parents. So what they feel is just hostile. They feel hostility towards the parents. That is basic hostility. And because of this, they end up in a condition where they are always apprehensive about future. Like they feel that they are very helpless. They don't have a proper future. They are not in a safe environment. They are always worried about this. So that leads to a condition which is called basic anxiety. Okay, so basic hostility and basic anxiety are the main concepts that we have to study here according to our syllabus. We'll just read through the textbook. Just read quickly. Horney was another disciple of Freud who developed a theory that deviated from basic Freudian principles. She adopted a more optimistic view of human life with emphasis on human growth and self actualization. Underline that. That is why the heading is given as Karen Horney Optimism. In Sigmund Freud's concepts, most of the things are given in a negative manner, isn't it? Yeah, more focus on the unconscious sexual desires, then the bad motives people have. Then, uh, did you feel a lot of negativity in that? Yeah, but here it is on the positive side, like for progress, for growth, for development, what is to be done, and what are the causes for it, how can it be resolved in order to pave the way for proper growth and development of the child. That is our focus here. That is why it is given as a more optimistic view of personality development. Well, Honai's major contribution lies in her challenge to Freud's treatment of women as inferior. According to her, each sex has attributes to be admired by the other, and neither sex can be viewed as superior or inferior. She countered that women were more likely to be affected by social and cultural factors than by biological factors. So, in her theory, social and cultural factors were given more importance than the biological factors. Okay, that is why we are describing about the safe environment. While the child grows up, even for the child, even for women also, they need a safe environment to develop and grow and progress towards proper personality development. Understood? So, what type of factors were of focus here in Karen Horney's theory? Cultural or environmental or social factors were of more focus than the biological ones. Then, she argued that psychological disorders were caused by disturbed interpersonal relationships during childhood. Disturbed interpersonal relationships during childhood. Underline. When parents' behavior towards a child is indifferent, discouraging, and erratic. Erratic means shows a very irregular pattern. Like today, they are showing very much affection, or they are showing very less affection, but tomorrow they are completely rude to the child. And this is continuing for a very long time. Again, they are showing a very irregular pattern. So the child itself cannot figure out what these parents are up to. Do they really love me? Do they really care for me? Or are they always rude like this? The child is in a confused state. Again, which leads to basic hostility and basic anxiety in the child. Fine. Okay. The child feels insecure and a feeling called basic anxiety results. Deep resentment towards parents or basic hostility occurs due to the anxiety. By showing excessive dominance or indifference, or by providing too much or too little approval, parents can generate among children feelings of isolation and helplessness which interfere with their healthy development. So, for the child to develop in a healthy manner, what should the parents do? What should the parents do? If the child has to develop in a healthy manner, then what should the parents do?
They should make sure that the child doesn't feel helpless
Hmm.
and the child always have a feeling towards them
Hmm. And how do they make sure that the child doesn't feel helpless or the child has feelings towards them?
by showing affection to them
By
and
showing
not showing
affection and not showing
irregular behaviors.
irregular behaviors. Then making sure that they are there for them. Then maintaining a safe and secure environment for the child to grow. Like suppose if the parents are fighting with each other, hmm, and they are involving the child also into the fight, and they are asking the child to take a side. You either stand with your dad or with your mom. then again, do you think that is safe for the child, for the development of the child? Do you think it's safe?
No.
Because that again develops anxiety in the child. The child is again put in a helpless situation, isn't it? To choose in between the father and the mother. Already the child is having problems at home, and then again the child has to make a major decision to either stand with dad or mom. Again, this increases the anxiety, which also leads to hostility towards parents. They feel that the world is very unsafe for them, again increasing their anxiety or stress, or this kind of leading to this kind of neurosis in them. So if this condition continues to a very long time, that may lead to neurotic disorders when they grow up, isn't it? Yeah, it's common sense, right? When they have the neurotic symptoms, then further when they develop into adult or maybe adolescent, or maybe even when they grow up, as they grow up, they develop these symptoms even more, feeling that the world is very unsafe for them, again feeling hostile towards parents, towards other elders, then towards other people maybe, and they may generalize this hostility to the entire world sometimes. That's how they develop severe neurotic disorders. Understood? So what are the basic concepts? Neurotic neurosis. Then the child needs a safe and secure environment. Then basic anxiety, basic hostility. Then focus on women's upliftment. In Freud's theory, women were considered as inferior, but according to this theory, according to Karen Horney's theory, she says that they shouldn't be discriminated, and each gender or each sex should be considered as equally important, because we have to learn from the opposite sex or opposite gender also. Both have their own qualities. Then cultural factors or social factors were more important than the biological factors. That is also an important point in the theory. Okay, and what was the cause of psychological disorders according to Karen Horney?
Disturbed interpersonal relation.
Disturbed interpersonal relationship. That is why we are discussing about basic hostility and anxiety here. That is an interpersonal relationship between the child as well as the
Parents.
parents. Disturbed interpersonal relationship. So that's it. Any doubt? No. Shall we wind up then? Okay, thank you. So for the next hour, if person who is taking Alfred Adler is absent, then we'll move on to next topic. If Eric Fromm's presentation is not possible, then we'll move on to the next person. So everybody revise the topic and keep. Okay. Thank you.